So very happy to be with you guys and to give you a little bit of context. As you may know, in the sport industry, many things happen. You have some scandals at the Asian Winter Games in Saudi Arabia. We face Olympic Winter Games without snow in Beijing. The FIS calendar is also something that we should discuss. So what we also learned is that according to a recent study, half of the former Winter Olympic host cities could be unable to sponsor Winter Games by 2030 due to lack of snow and ice. So there is something to do, guys. And so I'm very happy to be with you. Dan, if you want to begin, maybe first to introduce yourself, and then Julian.
Hi, so I'm from Protect Our Winters, which is a climate advocacy organization based around engaging the outdoor community in systemic climate action. I'm the partnership manager for Europe, so I'm in charge of interactions between European businesses that want to be global or European partners with Protect Our Winters and take action themselves. And it also means that I'm the sort of lead contact point for athletes for those brands, advocacy action for those brands as well.
Thank you very much. Same for you, Julian, please.
Yeah, hey. I'm Julian Schütter. I'm an alpine ski racer. I'm 25 years old. Last season was my first World Cup season. It was pretty good until I got injured in January. And I also am a climate advocate with POW. And yeah, that's what I do.
Thank you to be with me on stage on this impactful event. Maybe Dan, to begin, can you share with us, with our audience today, some figures about the impact of the winter sport industry on the mountain ecosystem? Do you have some key figures, key impactful figures that you can share with the audience today?
I mean, I think when we look at just the impact that the winter sports industry has on the mountains, I think we sort of missed the point. We need to look at the bigger global picture, and that the actions of the winter sports community are important, or the winter sports industry are important, not just to reduce their own impact, but to be role models and global leaders in sustainability and in meeting science-based climate targets. We need to think about the figures, like you mentioned the impact on previous Winter Olympic host cities. Actually, if we take that further, if we go to the end of the century, by the end of the century, only one previous Winter Olympic host city will still be able to host the Olympic Games. By 2050, we're looking at almost no consistent snowfall in snow resorts below 2,000 meters. And we need to think of that not just in the impact on winter sports, which we can see as the sort of the canary in the cage for this, but the global impact that will have. By the end of the century, we're going to have lost 80% of all our glacier and snowpack mass that we have existing at the moment. And although that is tragic for the winter sports industry, what we have to remember is 2 billion people are utterly reliant on snow or glacier melt for their drinking water and agriculture. So this goes way beyond either the impact of the winter sport industry or the impact on the winter sport industry. What we need to view it as, how can we be role models and leaders in climate action?
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Julian, you are a committed athlete. You published a pledge a few months ago to the International Snowboard and Ski Federation. Can you maybe detail and precise us what was this pledge and why did you decide to do it?
Yeah, it was an open letter. I wrote it, and it's basically about that we as a community, as winter sports athletes, are seeing the impacts of the climate change already, and we're feeling it in our everyday lives and in our professions. And we see that our sport is threatened existentially and urgently by this. So who, if not us, can lead a change if we are so threatened by it? So I've seen that our international federation, FIS, has not done enough to be really a role model and to lead this. So in this letter, we are demanding from this organization basically 4 main demands, which is commitment to climate neutrality until 2035, a strategy how to reduce emissions by half until 2030, a sustainability department, and full transparency. And this open letter was signed by nearly 500 active FIS athletes. So I hope it has some impact.
Okay, thank you, and we hope so. We will push for that. All the sport ecosystem with impact will also help you and push for that. Dan, I have also a question about Protect Our Winter. Can you also share your vision of your organization? And you were speaking to me about educational program also and to make brand awareness. Can you maybe also tell us about this impact that you have with Protect Our Winter?
Yeah, so Protect Our Winters is a global organization. We have branches in the US, in Canada, in Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and we're present in 10 separate countries across Europe, from Scandinavia down to Italy, and all across the DACH region, the UK and France. We focus on bringing climate advocacy opportunities to the outdoor community. We do that in various layers of ways. So it can be through education. We run a schools education program called Hot Planet, Cool Athlete, where a winter sports or outdoor sports athlete will visit a school with a POW educator, explain to the children not only the impact of their own actions, but how they can drive systemic change as well and how they can create a wider difference. We work with brands on their sustainability strategy, encouraging them to think about not just their own actions, but what we would call the collaborative and mass movement part of their sustainability strategies, how they can be role models and voices and push this further, either within industry, within their audience, and more global across industries that they're not even part of. You know, how the winter sports industry can drive sustainability ambition across all industry is what we look at there. And then we also do direct political advocacy. So connecting our communities direct with decision makers, with politicians, and responding to, for instance, my work this week is involving making our organizational response to the EU 2040 interim climate targets. So we're making sure that we're putting the voice of our community direct to politicians and decision makers as well.
Okay, clear. Also, Julian, when we talk about the athletes, sometimes we saw that they need to be educated. They seem lacking sometimes of awareness around purpose topics, sustainability or social impact topics. From your point of view, what can be done for the athletes right now? What are they needed to be much more spoken person around these impactful projects and topics?
I think a lot of people still think that to be an advocate, you have to be perfect at first. And that is really bad because so many people who would have a lot of influence and would already know what it is about are not able or cannot really talk about it because they feel like they are not supposed to, because they are flying to races and stuff, and so they're not allowed to talk about these issues. And I think this has to change. We have to promote imperfect advocacy to let the people know that they can speak up without being perfect at first.
Okay. And yeah, then do you share also this point of view? Yeah. Do you share that also, Dan? And what is your vision about the athletes' commitment and what can be done to help them?
I mean, we view athletes as our superpower at Protect Our Winters in various levels. So, for instance, as a group across Europe, our normal reach through newsletter or social media of our organizations is around 150,000 people, whereas our Athlete Alliance, the 100 or so athletes that work with us on a day-to-day basis, actually reach around 3 million people. So they have a huge accelerating effect just in terms of audience size. But then, because we work primarily with outdoor athletes, these guys are on the front line of climate change in our mountains or in our oceans every day. So they see the changes firsthand, and they can relay that to their audience with a conviction that maybe an NGO or maybe a scientist can't do. And they can provide that role model experience. So we do what we can to empower our athletes at POW, whether that is taking athletes that have never spoken up on climate and providing them with confidence or training and communication, or whether it's working with athletes like Julian, who come to us with an idea like the action against FIS, and then helping them enable it and push it out to a larger, more global audience.
Thank you. And Julian, do you think that we can also have an impact in the contract of the athletes? That's to say, maybe to add some line in the contract and the athletes has to speak around, I don't know, the new IPCC report about sustainable commitment. A few years ago, I was speaking with a guy in a football club, and he told me that it's not the role of an athlete to speak about that. You shouldn't include guidelines in the contract. Is it something that for you personally, you try to be also quite activist, committed?
Yeah, I had that idea some time ago, and I also tried to implement some paragraphs in my contracts with my partners. Like, depends on where they were standing, but things like if you can reduce so much of your carbon footprint, you can pay me less, or if you manage to make a emission study at the end of the year, then it's okay, you know. But at least my sponsors weren't ready to do that, unfortunately.
No, not ready yet. But we will.
Not yet, yeah.
Yeah, I think that it will come more and more, and if it comes from the athletes, from the organization, also it could help to promote that and to give that. Also, then a question. You were speaking about example of committed partners and sponsors when we were preparing this meeting. The sponsors have also a role to play to tackle the issue as the athletes. Can you give us some example? You were talking about Patagonia also, or other brands. Can you share with us some examples and how it could help the athletes also to be much more activist and advocate on these topics?
I mean, we partner with brands that protect our winters to promote our work and to enable their sustainability change. The minimum expectation we would have of a brand partner would be that they would enable their athletes to take part in any advocacy opportunities that they wanted to. That an athlete would be able to go on an Extinction Rebellion march or to sign Julian's letter from FIS without any contraindications from their brand. That would be our minimum expectation from a brand. Next, we have the brands that work with us on providing training or opportunities to their athletes. We offer a climate advocacy course at POW, and several brands have signed up. We've delivered that course this year to the North Face, to Nidecker Snowboards. We're delivering it later to Atomic Skis. And this is a course where the brands are giving their athletes the opportunity and the knowledge to be able to speak out and do more. But there are other brands that go beyond that, and they tend to be the smaller brands. I mean, Patagonia have a good compulsion to get their athletes and ambassadors. They have an expectation for them to act on climate, but that is a family or now trust-owned organization. There is another leading organization in the US on this called NRS. What they do, and they're employee-owned as well. So I do wonder if it's this lack of responsibility to shareholders that helps. They have shifted their entire ambassador program to what they call the LEAD ambassador, and LEAD stands for Leading on Environment, Access and Diversity. So any of their ambassadors that they now sign must be part of an environmental program, an access program, as in access to outdoor spaces, or a diversity program, as in bringing new groups to the outdoors. And that is the sort of signing criteria for that brand. And I would love to see brands move from, you know, even if they don't move all the way, move one step along that spectrum would be our hope and what we try and encourage at PAL.
Okay, thank you very much. Julian, regarding your pledge, your commitment, do you think that the fees will take that into account? Do you think that they are in a great way to apply your recommendation? I just seen that they just hire a sustainable head of sustainability in the organization. But you were also talking to me that in their strategy, they indicate that they will offset their carbon footprint. So what is your expectation and what is your vision about what you want and what can be their action tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've already done something a little bit, because one of our demands, for example, was full transparency. And after that, FIS uploaded a climate report on their website, which is one step towards transparency. We also demanded a sustainability department, and now FIS announced they're going to hire a sustainability manager, which is also one step towards what we demanded. I think we're seeing some changes, but until now FIS still holds on to this, they say they're climate positive because of compensation, overcompensating things, but it's not really trustworthy, the project they're having there. There is happening a lot at the moment, because last week Greenpeace published a study where they recalculated the FIS calculations, and
it's not the same figures.
Yeah, basically it's they underestimated their emissions for many times. So maybe this is a good argument, because they're basing this claim to be climate positive on these calculations. So maybe now this is their chance to stop claiming that and focus on real carbon reduction,
concrete action,
concrete action, and reduce their emissions instead of speaking
without
weird stuff.
Okay. Dan, you share that. What is your point of view about the future of the fees, and do you think that they are going in the great direction or not?
I think they're making baby steps at the moment, and it remains to be. I mean, the FIS Congress is in progress now, like as we speak. Things about next year's race season are being decided right this moment, so we won't quite have the full answer on that until after today. But as Julian says, they're claiming to be climate positive, based on a completely inaccurate climate emissions report, and also based on avoided deforestation carbon credits, which have been shown to be mostly worthless in recent studies. We at Protect Our Winters, our opinion on offsetting is that it should be the absolute last resort for any emissions that you cannot possibly reduce to start with. And in fact, even when we look at new legislation like the Green Claims Directive, which may be coming in the EU early next year, that will make claims like climate positivity based on offsetting illegal anyway. So I think their amount of time they have to continue this line they're treading is limited, even if it will in the end be limited by legislation.
Thank you for that. Maybe Julian, a last question or last feeling. What do you think about the future? Are you optimistic? What is your advice also for the other athletes that are now hesitated between being more activist, being more pushy around sustainable impact or social impact? What is your advice, recommendation, and what is your vision for the next few years that are coming right now?
Yeah, I think we all are interested in a livable planet in the future. So I hope that many people join this movement, so we can save our winter sports, our passions, and our planet.
And I think that tomorrow the FIS is taking decision about the calendar of the competition, and so maybe if they are listening to us, trying to go in the right direction and have less competition and maybe a better calendar. Maybe also for you, Dan, what is your vision about the future? What is your expectation, and how we can try to motivate the youngest generation and also the athletes and the sports ecosystem behind us?
I think I'm always overjoyed by the amount of athletes that are coming forwards, that want to take our training programs, that want to learn more, but also the athletes that are bringing their own actions forwards, like Julian is, and actually pushing the agenda, and we're almost running to keep up with them. But I don't want that to in any way take away from the absolute desperate urgency that we face for really sustained and committed joint action. So yeah, there's good news in the way it's moving forwards, but let's not take that as a reason to take our foot off the gas.
Okay, thank you, both of you. We can applaud them. Thank you for your commitment. And thank you, and have a nice afternoon, everyone. Bye-bye.